I'm here with Rowan Van Tromp from App Advisory Plus, and today we're going to be looking at Zapier and how you can use Zapier to improve the productivity and efficiency of your practice. Say hello, Rowan.
Hi, Simon. How are you doing?
Hello, I'm brilliant. Thank you very much. And I can't wait to get started. But before we do, please remember to like the video. If you have any questions or comments, put them below the video. And also make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you get notified the next time we upload a video to help inspire, challenge, and support you to run the best practice you can. Let's get started. So without further ado, you're not here to listen to me, you're here to listen to Rowan. And I'm very excited about this, as I was sharing with Rowan a minute ago. I'm very excited about this one myself because it's something that I've played with, but not particularly successfully. So without further ado, if we can have a warm virtual round of applause for Rowan.
Thanks for the introduction, Simon.
Yeah.
Afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on the webinar. Just to introduce myself before we get started, my name's Rowan and I'm an ACCA accountant and operations director of App Advisory Plus. I've been working at App Advisory Plus for around a year now, and really it's a synergy of somewhere that you can go to search for apps and also get support around how you implement them, how you start an app advisory kind of service for your client base, and we'll support you around that. Previous to this, I was head of cloud services at PGACO Accountants at a firm in around Brighton at the time that we became QuickBooks Firm of the Future. I've been using Zapier for a fairly long time now. I actually started using it for a community interest company that I set up in Norwich called Norwich Food Hub to kind of manage some of the operations there. So that's how I got into it. And recently this year, I became a Zapier certified expert as well. So in this session, I'm going to start by kind of explaining what Zapier is. I know there was quite a lot of questions around that. Then I'm going to go through kind of what I call the Zapier mindset, run through the fundamentals of how it works, and then we'll go into some of the more practical examples of how you can use Zapier automation in your practice and also to help your clients. So first, for everyone that's kind of new to this, Zapier is an online automation tool and it connects to over 2,000 apps. You can connect 2 or more apps to automate repetitive tasks, and you don't need any coding skills, so you don't have to rely on developers to build an integration. Data gets presented to you in a way which is fairly easy to understand without coding knowledge, and not all of the data that is held in an app is accessible in Zapier. It's only the data that they have made available through the Zapier integration. And you can only add or update data that are available to connect to as part of Zapier. So as an example there, Xero has lots and lots of data fields, but you can't amend all of them through the Zapier integration. So the reason that I'm going to talk through a mindset here is the most common question that I get around Zapier is kind of how do I know when it's going to be useful? And this is kind of my general approach to answering that question. And really, it's all about solving problems and process automation. And to start with, you really have to have a real good understanding of what the process is that you're trying to improve in the first place. So questions like, what Zap's going to take me, save me the most time, or like which one's going to benefit me the most? That's a relative question, and really it depends on what process you're trying to fix in your practice or what problem that your client has got, and understanding like how much time is that taking, how much money is that costing me, and what are kind of the problems in that process. So once you've got a good idea of that, then you're going to look at, okay, so we've got this problem. Maybe there's data that I'm putting in manually in a few different places throughout a process. How can I streamline the process to make it quicker and more efficient? And then you need to make the assumption, I think, that technology can help you in some way. And you don't have to necessarily know straight away what that's going to be, but you make the assumption that because you're working with data, then it can be improved as a process. And here is where you start to look at, is there perhaps a native integration that can help me? And if there is, then what does it do? And does it do what I want it to do to improve my process? And you would look at that first, because native integrations, they tend to be cheaper, and they'll probably be quicker and easier to implement. That said, if there's not a native integration, and there aren't native integrations for everything, you might have custom kind of process, then you can start looking at, is Zapier going to be something that can help me? And again, one of the main questions that I get is, does this app work with Zapier? And Zapier have made it really easy for you to go and find out what apps work with them. And by going to that URL there, which I think we're going to pop into the chat as well, you'll be able to see quite quickly, if you can type in the app that you're trying to automate processes around, and see what information you can get out of the app and what you can put into the app. And that is kind of where a trigger and an action is mentioned. So that's kind of what that means. Trigger, can I get the data out of the app? And action, can I put data in or amend data that's already there? So once you've gone through that and seen whether the apps actually are going to, you think, do the things that you want, then you need to do some cost benefit analysis to see, okay, so I know that this can happen in Zapier. Is it actually going to be worth my time implementing it and kind of running with it, with the costs of Zapier? So hopefully that explains kind of the mindset that you would have with approaching this kind of process automation. And now you want to know how Zapier works. So as I said, it's really around triggers and actions. So you can think of a trigger as new data has been created in an app, or existing data that was already in the app has been updated. And these will be triggers for various data points within an app. So for instance, 0, again, you could look at a trigger would be a new invoice has been created, or a new bill has been created, or a new contact has been added, or a new contact or a contact has been updated. Those are the kind of triggers that are available. And then the second stage of a Zap and further stages after that are action steps. So this is, okay, something's happened. Now I want to either find an existing bit of data. I want to update some data either in that same app or in another app, or I might want to create some new data somewhere else. And the more trigger points that are available for both kind of data created and data updated, the better, because you'll be able to get more data out of your app for use in another app. Okay, so I'll go for an example here. So triggers will kind of often be for what I would call a parent piece of data. So for instance, if we took practice ignition's trigger, which is the state of a proposal has changed, what that means is that when the proposal state changes, data about that proposal is made available to Zapier, and it will be presented to you in a way that's easy to read. So no code, it will be plain English. And that will happen every time the proposal state changes, regardless of what that proposal state change is. So it might be that it's been created in a draft, or you've updated the value of the proposal, or the proposal has been won. And if you want actions, so the second or further step of a Zap, to be based on a specific status, then you would have to use a filter here. So Filters, to use them, you would need a starter account of Zapier, which is around $20 a month, so not particularly expensive. And filters allow us to specify whether something, whether a Zap should continue after the trigger based on the data meeting certain conditions. So for instance, the condition could be, I only want this to go forward, this data, if the proposal was won, or if it reached a different kind of stage. And to start with, you choose the data field that you want to pick in the app, and then you choose the condition, and then you enter the value. And you've got various conditions here for which you can filter data, and that's absolutely plenty. Sometimes, though, you might want to have different actions for different variations of a data field. So in this case here, you could have different variations depending on what the status was. So here on the screen, you've got the proposal is won, the proposal is lost, and the proposal is changed to awaiting acceptance. What you can do here is either have multiple Zaps which only deal with one condition, or you can use something called paths, which are shown on the screen here. And these require a higher tier of Zapier subscription. And you start really using paths when you get into more complex Zaps, because they get a bit trickier and the process is a bit more complex. But these are generally a nicer option because it keeps everything into one Zap overall. So in this case, you might want awaiting acceptance to go to notify somewhere. You might want one to trigger off some jobs, or you might want lost to, I don't know, remove them from your lead contacts in MailChimp, for instance. If you can have paths within paths as well, and as soon as you open a path, you have to specify the condition, as I was kind of alluding to there. So if the path here was 1, then again, like you did in these filters here, you just have to filter and say what the condition is there. And there's an option there for a path within a path. So you can only have 3 paths in Zapier, but if you need it to split out into further routes, then you can have paths within paths. I should just say that these are kind of more higher level features, and very at the very basic level, being able to do an action here and then a trigger and an action is very easy to kind of set up. Another option that I just want to talk about, because it highlights some of the capabilities of Zapier, is formatters. And sometimes after a trigger event, you may have to change something about the way that data is presented to make it usable in another app. And for that, that's why formatters are there. So for instance, if one app presents a full name, but you only want the next app to have the first name, then what you would do is use a text formatter to split the data where there is a space. And really these formatters, if you're used to using Excel formulas, they're very similar to that. That is exactly the way that kind of Excel formatters work. So you can split text in Excel as well if you need to. And that's just, they've just lifted that kind of functionality into here. Also, kind of if you want to calculate a value, so you might, for instance, GoProposal has a Zapier integration. You might want to calculate the value of certain line items, for instance, and you can use a calculator for that here as well in the numbers formatter. And very common one as well, date and time formatters. often one app will present date and time in a format like I don't know, different country date and time, and you want it into British time, then you can do that quite easily using one of those functions as well. And utilities, they help you with like lookups. So you could think they're a bit like a VLOOKUP. And this is just an example of where you would use one of those VLOOKUPs. So again, here we're using an example of practice ignition. When a proposal is won in practice ignition, we want to look up the services that are on that proposal and then add them into Pixie here, because practice ignition and Pixie don't have a native integration. So to get the workflow to seamlessly push into Pixie, you use Zapier for that. Okay, so another example I just want to show you where you might use a text formatter is if you have leads coming in from something like the Xero directory or the QuickBooks Find an Accountant directory, often it's quite hard to think about how you can automate the next step, because the email that you need to reply to is within the body of the email and it's not the reply to email address. So in this case, you can use a formatter which extracts the email address from that body of the email, and then you can add that to your lead system, or just send a plain automated email to say, thanks, we've got your request, and someone will respond soon, or book in a meeting with me using this Calendly link. I won't spend too much more time on formatters, but they're quite useful to know about, because if you get stuck when you're creating a Zap, this is often a way that you'll be able to resolve your problem. So knowing that they're there is quite useful.
Just before you move on, Warren, if I can, because I'm a bit of a simple being, and as I normally say on these sessions, I like stupid questions, because stupid questions are the easy ones to answer. It's the hard questions that I don't like. I've got a question from Phil as well. So basically, in my language, as a non sort of IT geeky type person, a Zap or a Zapier, what it does is it connects two pieces of software that don't ordinarily talk to each other. And you can tell it what the trigger is in one piece of software, i.e. a proposal state change. And if something happens in that piece of software, then it runs I'll call it a system or a process, which includes extracting the data in the formatters, et cetera, and gets it to do something in a second piece of software. Is that in my non-tech language?
Nailed it, yeah. And so we're triggering off that some data has changed in one app, and now we want, because of that, to do something in another app. And they don't necessarily have the native integration, or the integration that they have isn't doing what we want us to happen. So we can use Zapier to do that.
And the only sort of restriction for that is that the app in question can work with Zapier.
Yeah, and they make the data that you want to push into that app available
to Zapier.
To Zapier, yeah.
Okay, brilliant. So I've got a specific question from Phil, and I think lots of people will use Outlook. So can I use Zapier to automate my giving access to clean water through B1G1 to each email that I send from Outlook? So I know that B1G1 is with Zapier. Can you use Outlook, or can Zapier be used with Outlook?
Yeah, Outlook does work with Zapier. All email, like Gmail and Outlook, most of the Microsoft platform has integration with Zapier, but in different ways to Google integration does.
So you could set up, so Zapier would sit there and it would effectively monitor your inbox and your outbox. And if certain things happened in either your inbox or your outbox, say, for example, the subject said B1G1 donation, then that could be the trigger that then fires off the system. And it won't send the money from a bank account, but it records it on an Excel spreadsheet for argument's sake.
Yeah, and so that say Zapier knows which email to trigger off, because you'll have lots of emails. That's where the filters come in quite handy, because you could say, right, I've got the trigger might be, there's a new email in my inbox, but you need it only to work for those certain emails. So it might be a new email that you've put into a folder, or a new email with a specific subject. And that's where you use them filters and formatters to actually get it so that only the right data moves on and not all of it.
Brilliant. So if I want to do a little bit of self-promotion, when somebody subscribes to the YouTube channel, I receive an email that says new subscriber. So I could, with Zapier, and you could probably do this with rules in Outlook. Now I'm saying it out loud, but within Zapier, I could automatically send them a reply saying, thank you very much for subscribing to the YouTube channel.
Absolutely, yeah.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you. I hope that answers your question, Phil. I'm not sure Warren's got time to show you how to do it. Well, there's an opportunity for Rowan to show you at the end how to do it, but it can definitely be done, I think, is the simple answer to that. So brilliant. Thank you, Rowan.
No worries. And hopefully I'm going to cover off a fair few, or as many as I can, use case examples now. And I'm going to start off with the accounting platforms. And these are probably these are the main two accounting platforms with really good Zapier integrations. And so here's some examples of how I've used this in the past. Triggers, new transaction comes in, create a row in Google Sheets for reporting. And I used this for someone that really didn't want to move away from kind of a Sheets or Excel approach, and they wanted their debtors viewed in Google Sheets. So we kind of used that for that. One of the things, the quirks of using Xero and Approval Max is that it doesn't notify whoever created an invoice that it had been approved. So you can do that through Zapier, and I'm going to just briefly go into this and show you kind of how that works. So we have a new sales invoice coming into Xero here. We have, I should say, a spreadsheet in the background of this with every tracking category on it. And in the adjacent cell, we have the person's email that needs to be notified for that tracking category. So what we do here, new sales invoice comes in. Then we separate the tracking categories using this transform button formatter, sorry, and Xero presents them separated by comma, so we separate them out. Then we use the data that comes out to look up the spreadsheet row so that we know the email address to send it to, and then we send that email out so that the person that needs to be notified that the invoice has been approved is notified. And we have a similar thing here with Approval Max as well. They don't send invoices. You can have a Zap, which I'll show you again, where you've got a new invoice coming into Xero, and you can actually send a sales invoice by email using Xero as well. So I think I was speaking to someone the other day who had a problem where I think you raised recurring invoices in Xero, but for whatever reason they don't send. You can use this Zap here, simple two-step Zap, for every recurring invoice that gets raised, send it out by email to the main contact in Xero. So that might solve some of your problems on recurring invoices. A few other ones that I've thought of, I haven't actually implemented these. So new bill, if you get that, you could put a calendar event in Outlook or Google with a task to actually get it paid. You might have a new bill or expense goes into one of your client Xeros. You could filter to see if there's an attachment, and if there's not, you can then send them a request to send an attachment in. So those are some of the triggers. In terms of actions, you might want to update your contact details in Xero from a different system. So practice management system, something changes on the contact record there, update Xero or QuickBooks. You can create, you could create an estimate or an invoice from some form responses, so that you might not be doing that yourself, but your clients, they may have forms that they use in their business to help them price. And based on what the value is on that form, you could add in a draft invoice to Xero, so it's there waiting for them and they don't have to rekey in all the data. Similarly, some booking sites that are popular don't have Xero integrations, and you can use that new booking information to raise an invoice in Xero and send it out to them. And also you can just add or update an invoice in Xero or QuickBooks based on new information that's happened elsewhere. Probably the most used, that I would say, in Zapier, notifications. So these are, again, very simple Zaps to set up. Something's happened somewhere, send a notification somewhere else. That might be an email, a Slack, it could be a Facebook message, a Google message, or you can create a task to somewhere else based on a trigger event. So there's lots and lots that you can do with notifications and tasks and events there. E-commerce, I thought, was a useful one to mention around, because lots of e-commerce marketplaces or platforms, they have integrations to Zapier, and sometimes this is considered as a way that you can use these instead of native integrations. And I think what I'd say around that is native integration is always kind of the first thing I'd look for. If that doesn't do what you want it to do, then Zapier could be a way. So for instance, some of the native integrations with marketplaces or e-commerce platforms only allow you to do one to post to one sales account in Xero or QuickBooks, whatever it is. With Zapier, you might be able to then use that to split out the sales account to the way that the business wants to present that data. So that's a good way of where, even though there's a native integration available, it might not do what you want it to do. So you can use Zapier to do it instead. We've also kind of, this is a little bit outside of e-commerce, but I think one of the questions that came in was, what's one of the most complex ones that you've done? And we've created a bespoke Salesforce to Xero integrations out of this, because it's very flexible what you can do with Salesforce, but the off-the-shelf integrations often don't fit the bill for what actually needs to happen for that business's workflow, because you can amend a lot of things and set up kind of bespoke fields in Salesforce. Often the native integrations don't work very well with those. Another good example, forms. Lots and lots of businesses will use forms. I guess a lot of you guys probably use forms to collect information from clients. Here's some of the things that you can do with that. So we've worked with an accountancy firm which had multiple offices. When a new inquiry came through, we needed to know which pipeline to kind of route that lead into. And in that case, we use Zapier to look up the postcode using Google Sheets, and then add the deal and notify the correct person that was then assigned to deal with that client or prospect. You can also kind of use these as your fact finding if you're scoping the requirements of a new client. If they fill in some info to say that they're interested in this type of service, you could have that add them to a tag or a group in MailChimp or a different mailing list, and send them automatically some information about the service that you provide around that. So you're kind of helping warm them up to actually buying from you. And again, you can kind of do that after they've, I'll go through that actually in a minute, but after they've signed up as a client, you can also add them to various groups to say what kind of service that they've got. So you've got a segmented data base to market to in the future, or just update people. Again, we'll have a look at one. So this here, once it loads, this Zap is looking for a new form entry incognito forms. It's going to find the client by the name in incognito forms, and then we're going to update the client in center there with, I think this is just adding a note in against that client with the URL as well. Actually, it's not doing that, but you could do that. In this case, I think this is to do with if someone had changed their address, you might want to send out a form for a new address, find the client in center, and then update their address. Booking apps.
Just Rowan, just before you go on to those booking apps, I've got several questions that have come in, and I just to tidy those up before we move on to the next bit. Daniel's asked, I've tried to use Zapier to send an email to a new lead that booked a meeting via Microsoft Bookings, but I couldn't get Zapier to pick out the email address from the Bookings platform. Is there an easier way to do this?
So yeah, I think depending on where that email address is, if I come off this a minute and just go to, let's go into a new Zap. I'm not sure if Microsoft Bookings is on here actually, but I guess this could be kind of an email coming in from Microsoft. I'd probably recommend what you would do here is use this formatter tool by Zapier. And here you're looking to, I think it's going to be a text one. What you're really looking to do here is extract the email address. So there you go, extract email address. And here your input value, you would choose where in the email that you're actually extracting that from. So if their email is in the body, what would show up here is an option to link this to the body of the original email, and then pick up the email address from within that. So yeah, or you could choose a subject if the email's in the subject. And probably with Microsoft Bookings, you could change the notification if you needed to, so that that email was like in a good place for you to pick it up.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how that would work.
Brilliant, thank you. Becky says, if a user leaves, this is to do with the zero reoccurring invoices.
Yeah.
If the user leaves who set up the reoccurring invoice, this is when it doesn't automatically send it to the client each month. So it's when the user leaves that set up the reoccurring invoice, then Xero stops sending the reoccurring invoice when they've left. So that was that was the solution to that. Angela's asked, can you integrate Shopify and Sage 50 Cloud Drive? Do you know?
I don't. So Sage 50 isn't integrated to Zapier. So there may be an integration that does that, but it wouldn't be through Zapier. Your best option there would probably be a bespoke integration, or not using Zapier, using trying to plug in directly to the API, which is probably I get help to do that rather than try and look at doing that yourself.
Thank you. And then Jeff's asked, do you know, is Accountancy Manager on the apps map?
Accountancy Manager, I know that they're working on an integration with Zapier at the moment, but it's not in beta testing yet, I don't believe, or live.
Okay. And then Sharon's asked, in the forms use case, how would you look up a postcode in Google Sheets? Why wouldn't you just use Google Maps?
So the reason for that is I'm not sure how to do it in Google Maps. So the reason I used Google Sheets was because I found it easy to do. I just listed out all the potential postcodes that I needed. The postcode was on the form already, and then it was just basically a lookup of the in Google Sheets for that postcode and return the name of the person that I needed to notify.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. And then finally, Phil's asked, what about Go Proposal? I think that's about is Go Proposal on the apps map, and I believe it is.
Go Proposal does have Zapier integration, yeah, and I'm coming to a few of the things that you can do with that as well.
Brilliant. Okay, so that's all the questions I've got so far then, Rowan. Thank you.
Okay, cool. I'll carry on from here then. So I guess that lots of us are now using booking apps. I've shown a few examples there on the screen. One of the real key things that you can do with this is, if this is a booking to do with your lead management, so someone that has contacted you and they're interested in joining your accountancy practice, if you're using a pipeline CRM such as Pipedrive, you could, when they've booked that meeting, update the stage of the lead to they're no longer a lead, they've now booked a meeting, and you could add a record of that appointment. For ongoing appointments, you might want to kind of keep track of who's having appointments with you, and one way you could do that, other than the reports that are available in these systems themselves, is to add a record of the meeting to your practice management system. You might do that through a note, or just saving the event against them. You could add a timesheet entry from some of these booking systems into other kind of timesheet systems. And again, you can notify if someone's booked an appointment or changed an appointment, cancelled it. You can send a notification somewhere, and that's common with all of these things that we're looking at here. Notifications you can do with everything. MailChimp I put in because it's often a regularly used kind of system. You can do a lot with the MailChimp Zapier integration, and these are really important to keep your database up to date. So, for instance, you could add new subscribers in. Someone's completed a form on your website. You might want to add them into an audience, which is your leads, which are active at the moment. And then you can send them kind of automated email campaigns. Subscribe or unscribe data, again, notifications around that. We use that for App Advisory Plus. If people sign up to our newsletter, we send a notification to Slack. If someone unsubscribes from it, again, that goes to Slack so that we are aware of what's going on. For people that are clients that are kind of using MailChimp with e-commerce, if there's a new order in the store, you could use this to update what that is. If there's not a native integration that will do exactly kind of what you want. I've alluded to the accepted proposal one, add subscriber to a group or a tag. And there again, I've gone through that e-commerce one as well. So a few questions I think around Go Proposal already. Go Proposal and Practice Ignition both have Zapier integrations. They are the Go Proposal one is kind of a trigger only one, so you can't actually put data into Zapier using Go Proposal, but you can take data out of it. And with Practice Ignition, again, take data out of it. You can also add contact data into Practice Ignition. And really the benefits of these integrations, aside from pushing work into a different platform, for instance, Practice Ignition, No Center, native integration, you use that integration to push work in following a signed proposal. Pixie Practice Management doesn't have a native integration with either of these, but again, you can push data in to Pixie, contact data, and data about the services that they've signed up for using the integration. But one of the ones that I really like is, again, thinking about your lead management. You'll want to know when a proposal has been drafted, because that indicates that that lead is further along in the pipeline, and when they've won or when you've lost that. Again, you'll want the pipeline there to be made aware so that you can report on that information. This is a very new type of Zap that you can do, and this is around AML onboarding. And we've recently partnered with someone called a new app called Xama Technologies, and this enables you to trigger automatic emails for new clients or existing clients to verify their identity, and on an ongoing basis ask them to redo that as part of the AML like regular checking process. So once a year, if you wanted to do that, this all can happen automatically, and we can integrate it with your existing systems. So all of that data, for instance, could be stored in your Center or your Pixie practice management system. And yeah, and it kind of automatically refreshes, does AML checking, company checks, all done either through Zapier or a different integration platform that we might use as well. So that's what you can do with that. These are the three main systems, practice management systems that have Zapier integrations. I think that is spelt very badly there, but we do have a comparison available of what you can do with each of these integrations on our website. I think, again, there might be a link coming into the chat for that. But the overall things that you can do with these, workflow deployment from a proposal signed into one of these systems. Contact information, you can keep that up to date, or update another system like Xero or QuickBooks to keep the contact information in sync if there's not a native integration for that. And again, you could add in notes for various things and attach them to a client.
Rowan, there's a couple of questions on there.
Yeah,
I think, Emily, your question with regards to carbon has just been answered. Do you know, does it work with Onco? Do you know?
Onco don't have a Zapier integration, as far as I'm aware. They don't.
Okay, thank you. And then Philip's asked, is the integration with BOMA on the cards? Do you know?
To be honest, I'm not really sure of kind of what Zapier have in their pipeline for this, but actually Zapier don't do these integrations. It's like if Center wanted the Zapier integration, they build it themselves.
Okay.
So it's really up to the apps to kind of do this, and the more users that they get that ask for it, the more likely that they'll do it.
Yeah, to do it. Okay, thank you. And then Becky's asked, when we was talking or when you were showing the calendar apps, Becky's asked, is there a cheaper or easier way of allowing clients to book meetings with multiple members of the team without having a Calendly account for each member of the team?
I would say there your problem is probably Calendly rather than, So if I go back here, Acuity scheduling allows that as an option, I believe, but multiple scheduling of people. You might be able to do that in 10-8 as well, but yeah, I'd probably look away from Calendly there. And that Zapier wouldn't kind of help with that. That would be the app itself that would have to have that functionality.
So Becky, there's one that we've been used, which is a Microsoft product that Mark Swindell's been doing quite a bit with, and that's findtime.microsoft.com. So findtime.microsoft.com, which I think is a free part of the Microsoft suite. And that does a similar thing, so that you might be able to use that if you're on Microsoft. And then lastly, Rowan, at the moment, Sharon's asked, who would I need to speak to learn more about the AML onboarding? So is that you that?
Yeah. So this one here, yeah, you can speak to me, or you can go to Xama Technologies and set up a free account there, and me or Jax will get in contact with you.
Brilliant. Thank you. And just in case you've missed it, Mark's posted that findtime.microsoft.com URL in the chat box for you, Becky. Brilliant. Thank you.
Cool. Was that all the questions then?
That's all the questions I've got at the minute. Yep.
Cool. So I think we got to here, just to highlight what Receipt Bank does in terms of Zapier. You get a trigger for when a certain number of transactions have been processed. So that might be once, I know 50 transactions have been processed for this client, send a notification to the person that's doing the bookkeeping so they can get on top of it. And actions are, you can submit documents through other means. So if someone's using a Dropbox or Google Drive and they just want to put their stuff in there, and then you want it to go into Receipt Bank, you can use Zapier to do that. Or when a proposal is signed and someone has bookkeeping as part of that service, or you just give Receipt Bank to every client, then you can set up a Receipt Bank account automatically for them on your accountant kind of portal using this. So I had a look at the questions that came in beforehand, and a fair few of them were to do with onboarding. So we've got this graphic here which shows a kind of an onboarding system which is linked together using Zapier. So it starts by someone sending an inquiry form in. In this instance, we've used Cognito Forms as an example, but it could be most form software has integration with Zapier that would facilitate this. We're adding that into Pipedrive as a new lead, and then we're automatically adding them to MailChimp and sending a kind of a welcome campaign and a link for them to book in a meeting. Meeting then gets booked in, and again, we update the stage in the pipeline there in Pipedrive to the meeting's been booked, and we're going to send them a form to say, thanks for booking in a meeting. Could you please fill in this information so that ahead of the meeting, we kind of have a better idea of the services that you're interested in and what your problems are at the moment. As soon as they've filled that in, we update the stage to the prospect is now qualified, and that kind of, we've got that information all saved in Pipedrive as well, so the URL will be saved in there. And I should note that throughout this whole process, notifications and reminders can be used so that you're constantly kind of, or as often as you want, reminding the client that they need to book in a meeting or they need to fill this form in for us. So once that's happened, we can say that they're now ready to raise a proposal for. So in this case, we're going to add that contact into Practice Ignition so we don't have to type out what their details are again. And then we're going to create and send a proposal. And again, once that's happened, we can update the value and the stage of that lead in our CRM, so that we're always got a visibility of where things are in the process. And once they've accepted that proposal, then again, we can update the proposal to 1 in Pipedrive. And here we can trigger off a whole load of other things that support a really streamlined onboarding process. So you've got workflow being deployed, the client being created in Receipt Bank, notification to appropriate team members. You could have notifications coming out to the client here to thanks for signing up with us, welcome emails, please identify, please use this to verify your identity, so that we can meet our money laundering requirements. And maybe you want to set up a meeting with them. I think that there's been other Zaps here where you're donating to charity or something like that. Through B1G1, we could have folders being created in Google Drive or OneDrive for all of the client kind of records, and we might update our mailing service, so MailChimp or maybe you're using Active Campaign or something like that, we could update the record of that client in there, and also add in all of the services that they've decided to take out with us, so that when it comes to, I don't know, a VAT change, you've got a database there that you can just filter and send out to all of the clients that have VAT, so that they're updated. So that hopefully gives you kind of a really good idea, and there it's nice to see it visually of what you can do in terms of onboarding if you're using something like Zapier. And of course, you don't actually have to do all of these things. You could just pick and choose what you do, but this was designed as an overall process from the initial contact to once they've accepted the proposal, and what needs to happen after that for an accountancy practice. Of course, your clients will also have lead systems as well. So this is not just for accountants. You could apply this to lots of different businesses that have pipelines. So again, just there, looking at that, the visual there, I've listed out the apps that we use there, or alternative apps that you could use as part of that kind of onboarding journey. So that brings us to the end of the presentation, and I just wanted to recap what the benefits are of using Zapier at this stage. Hopefully feeling more comfortable with what those are, but I think there's some key ones. So you can react quicker to new information and provide a better overall customer experience. So you're responding quicker to customers. There's better internal sharing of information, because again, you're notifying internally staff when at the speed of things actually happening, and you can make information visible to more people. So instead of it just sitting within one person's inbox, you might share certain things into a Slack or into a Teams or something else like that. Data consistency is another really key benefit of using Zapier. So where different apps don't have native integrations, you might find, and I think this is common across lots of accountancy practices, you've got multiple data sets, and often the information in them is not consistent, and you don't really know which your point of truth is. So joining them up with Zapier can help you keep that data consistent and help avoid any communication problems that might result from data inconsistency. You've got a consistent process that is done immediately almost every time if you set up a process in Zapier, so you're not waiting on people actually having to do actions, and that helps to automate the repetitivity of tasks and free up time, so that your account managers, for instance, they can spend more time on actually doing work that they get paid for rather than admin stuff. So that's a recap of the benefits. And now hopefully there's lots more questions that I can help to answer in the last 5-6 minutes.
Yeah, brilliant, Rowan. Just so I've got some questions that I would like to ask. I've got another one from Sharon, which I will ask in a minute. Just before I get to those, Rowan, if anybody wants to speak to you in order to get your help and advice and support with regards to Zapier and its introduction, or have a conversation with you about how it works, and what's the best way for them to be able to do that?
So we offer like free 15-minute Zapier consultation. So there's a link on screen here. I'm not sure, I think I gave that so that we might put that in the chat as well.
Yeah, Mark just put that in the chat, so you can click that link and get it booked in the diary. Yeah,
so that would be one way. And we do obviously end up doing consultancy kind of projects for accountants as well to actually set these things up for them. So yeah, that's that one.
Brilliant. And if anybody's got, or to help you, because obviously you've given your time for the love of the job that this afternoon and all the conversations that we had. So if you would help you if you could leave you a review on the experts.zapier.com/app advisory plus URL at the bottom.
Brilliant. If I could get a review on that. It's a very new directory and we have a target of like something like 10 or 15 to get by the end of this month. So if you could just leave a review to say it was an excellent presentation or something like that, that would be brilliant.
Brilliant. Excellent. So just 10% of you that's watching this did that for Rowan, then that would be great. And it's the bottom URL. Well, it was the bottom URL before Mark's just added the LinkedIn one onto the chat box, but it was the bottom URL for you to go. And Mark's just put it on the bottom there to go and leave that review. That would be great. So just to finish off with these last few questions, do you know, and I've got a funny feeling I know the answer to this before I ask it, Rowan, but do you know if the HMRC website accepts Zap or can create Zaps?
Funnily enough, they haven't introduced the Zapier integration, no. It would be great if they did. If they have open API, which I don't think that they do, you can still kind of access it through Zapier, but that's much more difficult as a thing to do.
Yeah, I thought that might be the disappointing answer, but anyway, if we all start lobbying our MPs, then that might work. Sharon, just to answer Sharon's question, what software did you use to map out the lead management onboarding system? You know, the one that looked like the big spider diagram. What was the software?
That was actually just a Google Draw. When I'm doing projects, so we do projects for this kind of stuff, we use something called Score process mapping software, and kind of I map the process out in there, and then that helps me to then create the process in Zapier. But for the visual effect, that's why I use the Google Draw.
Thank you. And Becky's just put Micro is also good for process flow. So Miro, M-I-R-O.
It's very good there.
Yeah, my Norfolk perhaps didn't pronounce that very good to start with. Next one, main software is currently Iris. Do Zaps work with a desk-based account? I'm not going to say any more.
Unfortunately, they don't know. As far as I'm aware, there's none that do, although I forgot the name of it. I had a chat with someone last week who's creating a bit of a accounts filing software which does have this integration to Zapier. So I'm sorry I can't actually give you the name of that, but look out for it. I think
it's coming soon type scenario. Yeah. Brilliant. So definitely don't work with Iris. Where does Lorraine's just asked in the chat box, Mark, if you just pop that in straight after, then that would be great. And then the last question that I definitely wanted to ask, because I know a couple of people had asked it, is Steph had asked, are there any video tutorials for the very basic free versions and SAP? So if they don't want to aggravate you, is there a way that they can get some more information?
Yeah, definitely. So the top resource that I had there, how we've done a blog, and it's not just me that's contributed to that. There's lots of other kind of accountants that have written stuff about Zapier. I'll put that in the sorry, I've done that to all. Yeah. They also, that has some resources in there, including videos, but there's also a very good YouTube channel that they operate, and they've got kind of playlists there that help you get started. So I'd recommend watching those for the real basics of how to do things.
Brilliant. Excellent. And that link to do the review has gone in the chat box again. So if you could do that for Warren, that would be great. And we'll also make sure if you're watching this on YouTube that it's in the comments below the video, so you can do that there as well. So that's those questions now. That question now. Is there anything else you'd like to share, Warren, before we disappear? I've got to go fetch the kids from school in 1 minute. So
no, I just thanks to everyone for joining. And yeah, if you do have any questions or want some support with complex kind of workflows for either your practice or your client, then happy to listen to those and see what we can do.
Brilliant. Excellent. So as always, I will say thank you to the members of the community that's come along and asked the thought-provoking questions. As I always say, it's those questions that you think about that helps build this into the community that it is. So thank you very much for coming along. And as always, I'll finish with a virtual round of applause for Rowan and say thank you very much.
Thanks, Simon.
Thank you, Rowan. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching that video of my session with Rowan Van Tromp from App Advisory Plus. I'm sure you'll agree we've got some great ideas in there on how we can use Zapier. As always, if you've got value from this video, can you please hit the like button? If you've got any questions or comments, then post them below the video now and we'll gladly answer them. And please remember to subscribe to the channel in order to get notified the next time we upload a video. And finally, on the screen below me somewhere, you'll see some suggested videos to help inspire, challenge, and support you to run the best practice you can.